Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be talking a bit about my background and the angle that I'm coming at this from so that you can understand a little bit better about who you're dealing with. I'd like to start off stating for the record that this is the last thing I ever thought I'd be doing. I was happy to infiltrate, happy to collect evidence, happy to distribute that evidence anonymously, and happy to go get any bad guys. But making videos talking about myself seems totally antithetical to the Q ethos, and I kind of hate it. But the DIA and Q Plus are making me, so here goes nothing. My name is Austin Steinbart. I'm a 29-year-old DIA agent from Chandler, Arizona. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll see that I've been having a pretty wild time out here in Westworld working on this QAnon project. QAnon is a military intelligence operation. The first of its kind. One that uses space-age quantum technology to post messages from the future to internet forums in the present. It's kind of like that movie The Frequency with Dennis Quaid, except with a quantum computer. The main characters in the story are President Trump, Admiral Rogers, General Flynn, the DIA, myself, and Q+, the future commander of the Future Space Force, augmenting himself with time-warping artificial intelligence, and running point on this whole thing. Messages on the board serve several purposes. The first one is providing the public with a behind-the-curtains look at a live spy operation that is currently in progress. The second is to give me, personally, Baby Q, hints as I complete this little nightmare scavenger hunt from hell that I've been on. Over the course of this mission, I've infiltrated hotels, data centers, top-secret document warehouses, and military bases. So some of the gobbledygook posted on those boards are actually direct messages to me personally containing hints for things I happen to be dealing with at a given time. Kind of like a giant live-action escape room sort of a deal if you've ever been to one of those things. I was forced to do this, as far as I'm aware, for a couple reasons. The main one being my natural-born proximity to some of the top goons in the Royal Death Racket. My mom is from Yuma, Arizona. My grandfather, David Fry, was the guy who ran the private refueling contractor on the Yuma MCAS airbase called Mercury Refueling Inc., who loaded drugs onto military planes. Some of my best memories as a kid are sitting in the back of his truck at the end of the runway on that base, watching fighter jets take off over our head. My grandmother was a refugee from El Salvador whose maiden name was Grace Aragon. She was very self-conscious about being viewed as a dirty Mexican, so she changed her name to Norma Grace Fry when she married my grandfather. She died under what I consider to be very suspicious circumstances after being one of the first parents to aggressively sue the Catholic Church for sexually abusing my uncle. Growing up, Puerto Penasco, a great little Mexican beach town about 4 hours drive south of Phoenix, was like a second home to me. Spent lots of time down there. And as many of you are aware, Puerto Penasco happens to be one of the most important distribution hubs for the Sinaloa cartel. I also spent lots of time growing up in Belize, where my father owns a condo. Belize is a small country just south of Cancun that is legally owned by the Royal Death Racket. My dad spent much of his career working closely with major defense contractors. The director of engineering at Raytheon could attest to that. Growing up around the defense industry was a big influence on my life. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. As far as I'm aware, I was recruited to the Defense Intelligence Agency after recognizing that a major immigration protest happening outside my high school in 2006 was actually an intelligence operation. My first mission for the Defense Intelligence Agency was at age 17 when I used Christian missionary work as cover to get into Cuba and to gather intel on some deals they were making with the Chinese at the time. While in Cuba, I made friends with a young IT guy that worked closely with the man who is now Cuba's president. Someone I keep in touch with to this very day. So we will definitely be squashing the beef with them once all this is over. Like every other covert operation, this one has been financed primarily with gangbanging and drug dealing. Surprise! Just fun drugs though, like weed and molly. Not life-ruining poison like meth and heroin. And absolutely no human trafficking, of course. Kind of mortifying that they are making me tell you that part, but I guess the public needs to know how this actually works if we're ever going to be able to change it. So hopefully you guys won't hold it against me. Over the course of this mission, as you might imagine, I've done all kinds of crazy shit and met all kinds of crazy people. I've been jumped, robbed, kidnapped, and even poisoned. My nose is still crooked from getting my face bashed in one time. I smuggled lots of drugs across international borders. I've had guns pointed in my face several times on both sides of the border by both sicarios and federal police. And I've had several attempts made on my life, some of which were very close calls, including a couple where the DIA had to step in and save me, even though they technically aren't supposed to be helping. We've had quite the little Truman Show going on out here in Arizona, haven't we, Spookies? It's been quite a surreal experience, almost like my life got turned into a giant game of Grand Theft Auto. And just when I thought we had reached peak Twilight Zone, the DIA graciously decided to throw me yet another curveball by making me tell everyone about it on YouTube. So please subscribe and share with your friends. Because the faster we can wrap up this nightmare circus, the faster we can get on to the business of unveiling the Space Force.